As I started putting this fire line around, I realized I was in a burial ground. Probably an Athabascan or early Navajo burial ground. And the air around me got really intense with stuff that's otherwise inexplicable. And it was getting in the way of trying to dig a fire line and all that sort of thing. And finally I put down the tools and I said, look, goddammit, quit bugging me. I'm trying to preserve your burial ground here, so just leave me in peace. And all of a sudden the air cooled out. And I continued my job, and by the time I got in the thing dug, I was really wrecked. I mean, geez. And so I lay down just to cool out, and I must have fallen asleep. And I felt something sort of extra real wake me up fast, just as I watched a branch plummeting down from the top of this tree right at me, and I rolled out of the way and it landed right where it was. And so I thanked the Navajos around me yet again. And when it became dawn, the fire was out enough that I could take off and go jump in the San Juan River and clean up and go live another part of life. But that happened to me, and it's amazing what happens to you when you're out there like that. It gets great.
You have like more interesting? Sorry.
Oh, we've watched videos about water toning and how energy and thoughts can attach themselves to water. And I'm really excited to hear what you think about that. Do you think energy can travel in water, thoughts, intentions, things like that?
Wow, yeah, well, I'll tell you. From my point of view, one of the great things you can do is to jump in a raft and take off down a wild river for 8 or 10 days. And you really start to understand something about water. I have a friend, Rena Swensel, she was born into the Santa Clara Pueblo, and is truly one of the most brilliant people I've ever encountered in my life. Actually, she wrote a chapter for this book. And Rena, of all people, she lives by a 3-word phrase that takes place in the Tewa language. And that 3-word phrase is bo wa ha. Bo wa ha. Bo means water, wa means wind, ha means breath. Water, wind, breath. And these elements pass in and out of each of us all the time. And that's the way Rena sees herself related to the flow of nature. To me, it's one of the most amazing acts of consciousness. There's a picture of Rena here somewhere. But at any rate, when you either run a wild river through a desert country, like the San Juan River is my favorite river. I've run that river probably 30 times over the last 40 years. And it's the first river I took my daughter down when she was 9. And her name is Peregrina, or Celestia Peregrina Leffler. And we hit the one significant rapid on that river. And the way I run a river is in a raft and I row, because you can get really good at making it through the hard parts. And we got to the head of the rapid just as a pair of peregrine falcons flew right over her head. And that really, at that moment in time, became her totem. It's all interrelated. Boy, what a place that is. I've got another falcon story in a minute. But running any kind of a river like that, by the time you've gotten into it for 4 or 5 days, boy, are you ever into it. One of the great trips I took in, 1975, was through the lower canyons of the Rio Grande. If you imagine the map of Texas, you get down to that first Big Bend. And Big Bend is where I put in, and I came out 110 miles downstream near Langtree, Texas. And we had 2 rafts and 3 of us, so that every third day you were rowing solo. And the trick was to be a good mile or 2 ahead of the raft behind you, so that you got to experience what it is to be in a state of complete solitude, floating down a wild river, and the things that go through your head. Much of it can't even be articulated, but you become so much a part of it. You become so in tune with it. You'll be rowing along and you've been listening to and watching all manner of species of birds. And then off in the distance, you hear a growing roar. And you think, holy shit. And pretty soon you hit the rapid. And there are not that many people back 40 years ago had run that part of the Rio Grande before. And so you figure out, am I going to make it, which is the best way through it? And there you are all by yourself. And if you don't make it, you're over with. But if you do make it, you're sitting here in front of you guys. But what you hear and what you feel when you're on a river like that is the beginning of watershed consciousness. It really is. It really, you see that everything is constantly in motion, like I mentioned earlier. But what you really understand is not just the river itself, but this entire geophysical cradle that holds the entire watershed, and what that really does mean. In other words, it's a cradle of life. It's a cradle of being, either alive or not alive. It's constantly in motion, all of it, down to the atomic level. You know, there's constant motion. And then all of a sudden, it's nighttime. And you're in one of the most remote parts of North America. At least it was then, it still is. It's the last place I have been where I camped for 10 days and did not hear a single sound of human provenance except me. You know, it's really far out. Whew, really is no airplanes, no nothing. And so then it's nighttime and you can suddenly see a night sky that, well, I was thinking about this the other day because this is also part of watershed consciousness to me. Here in this land of clear light, northern New Mexico, when you're outside the city limits, and I live way outside the city limits right now, at night you go outside, and on a clear night, which is many of the nights, one of the things that's interesting to me is the sun shines here more than it doesn't. That's quite a distinction in its own. But at night, if there's not a moon, in a place like where I live, the naked eye can perceive about 3,000 stars. Now this is what blows my mind. Some of those stars, or a couple of them, are within 5 light years away. In other words, they're within a span of distance that it takes light at 186,000 miles per second to travel to get from the nearest star to us, 5 light years. The furthest star that the naked eye can see, if it's a good eye, is about 15,000 light years away. Now, you're seeing these points of light at the same time, but some of these points of light took 15,000 light years to get here. And some of them took 5 light years to get here. So you're seeing, it's not a discrepancy, but you're seeing vast relationships in time happening. Now, you cannot see any stars that lie outside our galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy, which is thought to have maybe más o menos 250 billion stars. Our galaxy is one of an estimated 100 billion galaxies. According to research, and this is all más o menos because nobody's pinned it down, but from the planet Earth, looking in any direction, you can perceive galaxies or light or indications that the radius from any given point on Earth of the universe is 46 billion light years. And so we live on this incredible planet itself it's about 24,000 miles around and about 7,500 miles thick. And it's alive. It is alive. One of the characteristics of the planet Earth is life. And over the last 200,000 years is yet another dimension of consciousness, which is born of life on this planet. Now, undoubtedly, or maybe it is doubtedly, but nonetheless, there have to be other places within the universe where some level of consciousness occurs. But ours is here. And one of the things I fail to understand is why we treat it so badly. And to get back to thinking about life, or about all of this understanding within the context of water. Water is what makes the life possible on this planet. That's a biggie. And the air, the oxygen in the air. The fact of the presence of life on this planet is extraordinary when you really think about it. To me, it takes one far beyond any religio-philosophic system. Way beyond any one of those. I think that to really become conscious of what's happening, it's important to get out in it and to go swimming in those watersheds. Lay down in an acequia in the middle of winter and feel what that's like. It's brisk. And to do it in the summertime is delicious. It's incredible. But it's flowing right through us. I think about this. Each one of us is a watershed when you think about it.